Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews and another special ranking night. Tonight, we will be revisiting another top 10 hypnosis scenes in movies. Now for this one, just like all my other revisitings, I will not be going over what the film is itself. I will just be going over the scene in general. So, with that being said, let's get started with number 10, The Hypnotic Eye, released in 1960. Now in this one, Jacques Bergerac plays Desmond, and he ends up hypnotizing a friend of Marcia Blaine's and causes her to disfigure herself. And then Marcia, played by Marcia Henderson, ends up teaming up with her cop boyfriend to end up trying to trap Desmond. And to do so, she ends up going to meet with him after a show, after he tried to hypnotize her on the stage. This is where things go wrong for her. Now she has looked around the room and she has gone over to this box. Now, should she open the box? No, she should not. But we would have never gotten this classic scene had she not.
Just relax.
Now, as you could see, she was trying to fight it. And that showed real cool character with her, because she already fought it on the stage when Desmond brought out the eye for the first time. But with Desmond's voice in the background helping to egg it on, she eventually gives in.
Relax.
Now, once she's looked into this eye, it's over. She eventually completely falls under its spell.
To sleep.
And Desmond knows it's time to come out and finish his programming of her.
Now open your eyes. They are beautiful. Beautiful blue eyes.
So at this point, she is so under, she is just staring off into space and completely out of it. And Desmond decides that's not enough. He wants her to be herself.
So they have no life, no vitality. Oh, that will never do. Now come on, be yourself.
And from that point on, she doesn't really act like she's hypnotized at all. She never goes back into the trance until they get back from partying and going out and having fun, in which her boyfriend, of course, gets disheartened and is ready to leave. But the doctor suggests,
I'll drop you off at your place. If I were you, I'd be up there with her.
And when she gets back to his place, that's where things turn and she gets placed back into a trance. Not by Desmond this time.
Deeply, deeply asleep.
Great sequence here. It's a great starting point for what we get to come. Alright, so let's move on to number 9, which is The Vampire's Coffin, released in 1958. And in this one, the Count, played by German Robles, is resurrected and goes after Marta. Now, in the original film, The Vampire, he never got a chance to hypnotize Marta, the character as played by Arianda Welter. But in this one, he uses this pendant around his neck to hypnotize her. Now, he gets her in the hospital at first.
I have returned from the dark regions because that is the way it was written. And you are the reason why. Your willpower is beginning to get weaker. Sleep. I have returned for you.
And he gets interrupted, of course. So later on he tries again, but she is already in the room with her boyfriend.
Martha. Martha. I'm waiting. Come out of there. He's not watching you. Now is your chance. Come out of there. Obey me.
And he snaps her out of it once again. But the Count is persistent and wants her and pursues her to this stage show that she is getting ready to perform on and sneaks up behind her. Of course, she cannot see him because he casts no reflection in the mirror.
Here. I give you this brooch now in the name of my ancestors. For tonight, you and I will be wed for eternity in a ceremony surrounded by darkness.
I love Ariada's look here and response to him. This sequence is very short, though, and that's the reason it's not any higher on this list, because it is, very short. Once he uses that, it's basically the end of the scene until, her boyfriend ends up snapping her out of it here.
No one is going to see you when you leave the theater.
But very good sequence and very great performance by Ariadna Welter in there. Really love her acting in this. All right, so coming in at number 8, we have The Brides of Fu Manchu, released in 1966. Now in this one, Christopher Lee's Fu Manchu hypnotizes several women. But the one we are wanting to see the whole film is when he finally gets his hands on Maria Lentz, played by Maria Versini. And he ends up finally getting her, and of course she is defiant.
She has spirit.
So you would find out if these men were not holding me.
We shall see.
So we find out how he gets around that defiance. Lowering her into snakes gets her fear levels up, and then he strikes.
You have no will, no mind of your own. You will do only what I command you to do.
Just the look on her face here, it's perfect, but the scene is way too short, because once he has already got her completely enthralled, it basically ends the scene, as you can see here.
Even to death.
So, another one that suffers from being short for no reason. This scene should have gone on longer, in my opinion. But that's why it's not higher on this list. But all right, so let's move on to number 7. And number 7 is Looker, released in 1981. Now in this one, it's not a real villain that is basically hypnotizing the character, but Cindy Fairmont, as played by Susan Day, is in a room with Dr. Larry Roberts, as played by Albert Finney, and they are investigating this company for very, very odd things where women have supposedly committed suicide after visiting their plastic surgery clinic and everything. And she watches these ads as Larry is reading about the ads.
was just as dumb as a regular commercial. Seems like there should be something more to it than that.
Now you just watch. Warrior All-Purpose Cleaner will make short work of this.
Oh, Warrior.
I love how the flashing eye effect eventually gets her to stop talking and just stare directly into the screen. And then the video just reinforces it through another ad.
I want it.
I want it.
I want it too.
They all want it, and they want it bad. The body that feels the business.
Fortunately for her, or unfortunately for us, Dr. Roberts is there next to her and snaps her out of it.
Synchronized with cortical alpha rhythms, producing an auto-hypnotic, suggestible trance.
Yes, I should.
Hey. Don't look at the screen, don't look at the screen.
But great sequence there, as it was well executed, up to that point where he ruins the scene. All right, so coming in at number 6, we have Not of This Earth, released in 1988. Now in this one, Nadine Story, played by Tracy Lords, is trying to escape an alien in human form, calling himself Mr. Johnson, as played by Arthur Roberts. And in the final sequences of the film, he chases her down. She has screamed in his ear, so he cannot use his hypnotic ability that he already has to psychically control her. So he's trying to recover as he's chasing her. And finally...
Stop running. Face me. My strength has returned.
It has returned.
I love this sequence as the way that he stops her and she turns to face him. And then the dialogue between the two of them is totally in the mind. Very interesting.
The first specimen I sent to Divana was crushed. I shall send another. It shall be you.
It shall be me.
We will walk to the automobile.
Now, yes, him explaining his evil plan to her while she's in trance, like she cares. She doesn't have a mind of her own right now. But he does explain what he's planning and everything, and she goes along with it because, of course, she's hypnotized.
I shall dispose of the intruder. Return to the house and enter the transmission beam in my study. Slide the power lever. We'll send you to Divana.
It will send me to Divana.
But excellent sequence here. And of course, she kind of gets saved by the end and doesn't really send herself to Divana because her boyfriend saves the day and ends up killing Mr. Johnson. But great sequence in a fairly decent, fun D-grade movie. All right, so let's move on to number 5, which is The Devil and Miss Sarah, released in 1971. And in this sequence, it goes on for quite a long time. It is Rankin, a criminal, played by Gene Barry, who's consistently manipulating Sarah, as played by Janice Rule. And eventually, he starts working his way down to get her to fully listen to his manipulations.
Do I look like the devil to you?
There are several more points like this in the film.
He's destroying you by not believing in you. You have one choice. It's either your life or his life. You must kill him.
And eventually, by the end, whenever it comes time for her husband to face off with Rankin and try and stop him, he is knocked out by Rankin. And this is where Rankin finally takes full control of Sarah. the way that she goes from completely mindless to what she's about to is very, very interesting indeed. It is totally different than anything you've ever seen in any other films with any hypnosis in it.
Smile, Sarah. And smile for Rankin.
She almost becomes totally happy to betray her husband and join him on this. And that is kind of freaky, but also kind of sexy.
You ever been to New Orleans? That's where we're going, you and me. You're gonna be a New Orleans gal. My New Orleans gal. You like that, Sarah? You're gonna be the fairest lady in all New Orleans. First, we're gonna have to play a little game. You like playing games, don't you, Sarah? Oh, yes, I know you do. Now you just wait outside. Come in. You wait outside, Mommy.
But excellent sequence. If you want to see my full review of this film, it's on my channel. It's a great film. All right, so let's move on to number 4. And number 4 for me is Taste the Blood of Dracula, released in 1970. Now in this one, Alice Hargood, as played by Linda Hayden, is abused by her father. And she runs away right into Count Dracula.
Alice.
Who are you? How do you know my name?
Now, she doesn't know who this guy is, and it's apparent that she doesn't realize the danger she's really in here in this. But once he looks into her eyes, that's when it gets really interesting. Without really even saying anything, he has already entranced her and put her completely under his control. And now is the part where this is totally unique from any of the other Hammer Dracula films, as he makes her a fully happy and loyal servant to his will.
Alice!
And in this state, she is more than willing and happy to kill her own father. Very, very cool, different type of hypnosis from the Dracula character in this. That's why it makes this list. All right, so coming in at number 3, we have Carefree, released in 1938. Now in this film, Dr. Tony Flagg, played by Fred Astaire, is trying to help Amanda Cooper, played by Ginger Rogers, because she's having these weird feelings toward, just going out and having fun and goofing off and everything. And her boyfriend, who she's about to marry, is concerned. And so the doctor is checking her as far as this, and he decides to hypnotize her with this flashing light.
Keep your eyes fixed on this light.
Now I like the strobe light effect of this sequence here, and Fred Astaire's delivery here is how, calm, and he just seems like he would be a really good psychiatrist in here, because he plays this very well.
Now you're feeling sleepy. Very sleepy.
Yes, Tommy.
Now, while she's under now, he decides to start probing a little more deeper.
You're in a trance now. I will bring you out of it shortly. You will act and be perfectly normal in every respect, except that you will have these new thoughts, which I am about to put in your mind.
Now, at this point, he kind of goes against what his practice is supposed to be all about, and he starts trying to make her despise and hate him.
Now repeat after me everything I say. I love Stephen. I'm going to marry Stephen.
I love Stephen. I'm going to marry Stephen.
Dr. Flagg is a horrible monster.
Dr. Flagg is a horrible monster.
And this is where he finds out that, yes, she does indeed love him, and he kind of feels that he has fallen for her as well. And he's conflicted.
Tony doesn't love me.
Tony doesn't love me. Tony doesn't love me. Tony doesn't love me.
That's enough.
That's enough.
Very, very excellent sequence here. I just absolutely love the way this scene is staged and executed in this film. And to me, this is the best Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers film ever made. So, definitely worth checking out if you have never seen it. All right, so let's move on to number 2. And my number 2 is Devil Doll, released in 1964. And in this film, Marianne Horn, as played by the lovely Yvonne Romaine, goes up on stage, unfortunately, and is hypnotized by the great Forelli, as played by Bryant Halliday.
Well, this is very kind of you. Do you mind telling me your name?
Marianne Horn.
And as soon as he sees her and does this sequence with her, he is obsessed with her.
Now, Miss Horn, don't be frightened. Just look into my eyes. That's right.
And you can't really hardly blame him. I mean, look at her. That's Yvonne Romaine, and she is just so lovely. But it goes further than that. Much like The Devil and Miss Sarah, it does kind of expand, and he uses his influence on her throughout the film. It's not just one sequence in here on this one.
Look into it. So deep and rich and red and warm. Deep, rich.
And it culminates in this moment where he calls her to his place to be sexual with him.
You do not know you're here. Tomorrow, you will remember nothing.
I will remember nothing.
It's kind of creepy, though, the way he does this sequence, because he knows that she doesn't know. He even says it in his line, you know, she doesn't know where she is. But he's quick to take advantage anyway.
Only to think.
Very good sequence, and very well acted by all parties in this one. That's why it makes my number 2. All right, so coming in at number 1 for me is The Climax, released in 1944. And in this sequence, Angela Klatt, played by Suzanne Foster, she is hypnotized by this weird kaleidoscope light thing that the doctor has constructed, and is very unique and very well executed because of how you can see the reflections of the light off of her face.
We are ready. Now watch the light.
And Boris Karloff plays this very well as he manipulates her into watching it and keep looking at it, even though it is supposedly hurting her eyes.
body, muscles, nerves, brain. You're gliding away into pleasant places.
Another great voice with, Boris Karloff having that almost like the Fred Astaire kind of a thing, where that voice, he could really, you could see him as like a psychiatrist or something, to where he could get people to relax and concentrate on something like this. No issues, because he is so good with that, the way that inflection of his voice is.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I hear you, Doctor.
And now that she is under, his voice becomes a bit more sinister, and he brings out his real plan for her.
You don't want to sing again, ever.
I will never try to sing again.
I forbid you to sing again. You will take this atomizer with you, and never be without it. It will remind you of my control.
It's really odd, though, that this is the opposite almost of Svengali, because in Svengali, the music teacher character is trying to get the woman to be this great singer, and in this, he's trying to get her to kill this voice, because that is not her voice. So it's like Svengali in reverse. But great film. If you've not seen it, check it out. But what do you think of this list? Do you agree with it? Do you disagree? Let me know in those comments down below. And as usual, if you enjoyed this video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to click that bell icon so you can be notified about future videos just like this one. And while you're by the subscribe button, click that join button and become a Dark Knight fan. As a Dark Knight Fan Plus member, you have access to an area on the channel right now where you can request a movie, TV series, or ranking video of your choosing. And when that video goes up, it will go up for all Plus members to view prior to it coming up on the regular schedule for other subscribers. So if you want to get interactive and help us to get movies and TV shows or even a ranking video on here that I have not covered that you want to see, become a Plus member. And if you missed last week's ranking video, check out the link above. And if you missed any of our other ranking videos, check out this playlist and get caught up.